Hello, I'm Teacher Casey, and
And I'm Teacher Seth.
we are here to discuss the New American Textbook, which is entitled Reading Digest. Now, this textbook is not for speaking, but rather the focus is reading comprehension and vocabulary. But since we are speaking teachers, we have to find a way to stretch the students' speaking time. Okay, we'll discuss
Right.
that when we get to the book. There are two levels for this book. We have the easy level or the easy series of books, and then the basic series of books. So for easy, oh, by the way, each series they have 3 books. So easy 1, easy 2, easy 3, and basic 1, basic 2, basic 3. Easy books are it depends on the age range. So for those who are 8 to 10 years old, starting level, okay? This is the starting level. New students, those who are already taxation students and they want to switch the book, you don't need to stick to this
Follow the
kind of
level.
leveling. Yes,
Right.
it depends on what your student's level is and what book you think is appropriate for the student. So it's also very advisable for you to go through the book so that you would also know which one when switching from one book to another. But
So all the
when you're
leveling that we
familiar,
have here, right, all the leveling that we have here are for new students.
Hmm. Okay, so
That's
for
what you
those
need to
new
remember.
students,
Mm-hmm.
8 to 10, starting level is GLJ4, so that's book 1, 5 for 2, 6 for 3. But if the student's age is 11 to 13, starting level is 3, and so on. And then for those 14 to 16, why just 16? Because it's not fit for high school. We think it's not fit for the topics are not fit for high school students and for adults anymore. Although they are informational stories, but it's still good for elementary school students and middle school students. Okay, so for
You will
14
see
to
that
16,
when you see the topics for the books.
okay, don't worry, we'll handle that later. But 14 to 16, they start at GLJ1. Okay, and then for the basic, which is a little bit more difficult than the easy level, 8 to 10, we start at level 5. 5, 6, 7, 11 to 13, you gauge whether level 5 or level 6, check the book first. Okay, if they could handle book 1. And then level 7 to 8, book 2, 9 to 10, book 3. And for those 14 to 16, starting at level 4. Okay, so let's move on to the book now.
Let's start with easy.
Okay, this is easy 1. If you can see, this is what the book looks like first. So you have the picture, and then you have like conversation starters. Then you have a short reading passage here and vocabulary. These words are
Vocabulary.
from the story. Okay, and then after that, actually comprehension questions, true or false, and then
Vocabulary.
vocabulary practice, the same with this one. And then these questions are for reading comprehension. Next, this is the workbook. So you use the textbook and the workbook together. Okay, so the same thing, same stories, same words rather, but some words have been added. Okay, but they're all connected to your topic,
To the
which
topic.
is desert. Okay, and then you have word match. Since this is easy level, so you see more of pictures and just what do you call familiarization with the words and visualization. And then this is the
Yes.
summary of the whole story. Next, more activities. So we have a short grammar activity. So
Very,
if you
very
can
short
see,
grammar.
yes, there is already a guide. This is the sentence that you're supposed to, this is your target. So you have your exercises there, and then writing and speaking. I think here you could add follow-up questions, right? Follow-up questions so that speaking
Right.
time would be stretched. And then you have the listening part again. So how do we handle this book? Okay, you've handled deserts? No?
Yes.
Not yet?
What
Okay,
I
so
did
how
was
do you do it?
I looked for pictures of deserts, and of course you have to look for the picture of the Sahara Desert, since this would be the main topic. and ask them what they can see in the desert. You can ask them what animals they see, what kind of weather do they have, just to stretch the speaking
Stretch
exercise.
speaking time. Yes.
Yes,
Okay, because you have to
time.
remember we are speaking teachers, so that's our focus. Although the book has its own focus, we should still try to make our students speak a
Right.
lot. Okay?
There.
But
So at least that will be a background of the
mm,
story.
and
Right.
they would know, at least have an idea, rather, of what you're about to read.
Talk about.
And
Right.
sometimes you can use these, but you can make up your own questions. I suggest, like, it's either you rephrase the words that you have there or
Sometimes,
come up
if
with
since
other
this would be
words
easy,
or other sentence.
easy, and the
Mhm.
focus would be younger students or students that are not that familiar with vocabulary, since the focus is vocabulary, try to rephrase your questions to easier questions, questions that you
Yes.
think the students would understand better.
Do not depend too much on the book, because if you just read what the book says, it's like you're sounding like an audiobook. The students can actually read them as well. So why need a tutor? So just put a little bit of tutor input. Try to rephrase your questions and add follow-up questions. So after you had the small talk at the beginning, then you move on to, I think, the reading part. It's
What I
either
did
you
was,
start with this or this.
yes. For me, it would be better if you start with the vocabulary words, because at least the pronunciation would already be corrected if before you go to the reading part, because they would already know how to pronounce the words, and the words will be seen or will be read in the reading part of the book.
In my case, it's different. I start with the reading part so that they would get an idea, context clues of what the words mean. And you just correct the student's pronunciation as you go.
Oh,
So either of the
all
two.
right.
And what I did was
It
we read
depends.
this one, and then I just chose
Hmm.
some of the words, like two of the words that I would ask the student to define. Like from the story, what do you mean by biggest again, or what do you mean by hot again? At least they
But
would have an
just
idea if you want the student to describe the word.
but just in case that your students are
Low level.
beginner students, low-level students, then it would be better if you go through all the vocabulary
Vocabulary
words,
first.
so that since in the book you would go through that to those words again. You will see those words again.
Okay.
At least they would already have an understanding of the meaning of each vocabulary word
Okay. So
there.
whichever works for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Lower levels, you can start with this one and this one. For those who have a little bit more of the a bit higher comprehension, but retention of the word is a little bit slow, you can start with this one and then review here
Yes.
either. And then you have pictures there talking about or describe or showing things related to the reading part. And then after that,
Hmm.
I think it would be a good idea for lower level students so that they would fully understand. I try to paraphrase and then tell them the story again in very simple words. And then after that, I ask them to tell me what the story was about.
Or maybe you can choose some words from the vocabulary and then ask them to make sentences. At least speaking and grammar would be targeted there.
And sentence structure.
Right.
So once you've established that your student has already fully understood the reading passage, then you move on to this part.
Because if they did not understand the
They won't
reading
be able
part
to
or the
answer.
reading portion, yes, no
Yes.
answer.
So after comprehension check, this one. So that's just true or false. The way I stretch it was maybe you would see it in the sample videos. True. Whenever it is false, I ask why. Because blah blah blah. Like there's no water in the desert. For example, if the answer is false, for example, why? Because, and then you refer to what they've read about. At least give them more time to talk. It depends on you how to stretch their speaking time, actually. So that's just how I do it here.
Mhm.
Did you try another way? Have you tried another way?
Um, what I did was just ask true or false. Of course, sometimes you need to explain them what is true or false.
Mm.
Because if these are low-level students, they don't know true or false.
Mhm.
So you can say true is yes, false is no,
Mhm.
so that it would be easier for them to understand. There.
Okay, so after you've finished with that one, you move on to word practice. So these are words that were in the story again. If you want to stretch it, actually, what I did with one of the students is, but that student was kind of, well, was able to talk and to make sentences, string words together. So I covered this part so that I would know like how the student would explain or define the words.
Right.
That's actually stretching the time. Or
And if you
you were
notice,
in a
this
hurry.
is not part of the list of vocabulary words. These are not part
Mm.
of those lists.
But you could
There.
also see them in the reading passage. So
Yes.
it's additional list of words. Okay, so it's either if you want to cut short the time, you just go straight to that one. Okay, but it would be better if you make a sentence pattern like live means blank. Live means to have life. So at least, although they're answering, they make complete sentences.
Mhm.
For those who can. Okay, don't force
Your
the
students
low-level
to
ones.
make answers or to answer.
Yes. Okay, and then after that, word
Next.
practice again. Okay, it's. I think I saw Audin's video with this one. They tried to. The student had kind of a hard time guessing
Mine
this
did.
one. So elimination. You try elimination or
Ah,
definition of the words. So
Y-
after, for example,
yes.
because here opposite. So of course you give an example of the opposite of tall is short. The opposite of big is small. So you try to eliminate. There's no opposite for lake because it's not an adjective. So what's the opposite of small? So of course you have big. So you eliminate small. So you only have two choices left, like that. The process of elimination. Do not answer for your students unless you've
Yes.
tried like so many.
You
You've
give them
taken a long
clues.
time. Taken a long time, and then it's still really hard for the student to grasp. Maybe you could, give not so subtle hints so that they could choose better.
Or sometimes you can say, "What?"
It
Or,
starts with a letter. Yes, you can do that. But don't spoon feed. Do not answer for your students. And then you move on to this part. Okay, I think
Comprehension.
you can ask again, like from the reading part or the reading passage, what did it say? Did it talk about? Blah, blah. You can ask follow-up question, a bit of follow-up
If
questions.
they don't remember, you can go back to the reading
Mm-mm.
passage.
Okay, and then
Right.
try to answer this one. Okay, it will make your students feel better when they choose the correct answer. Okay, it would make them want to answer more, I think. Because, okay, I got this one correct, and then, okay, I'll try to get the next one correct. Although, yes, you make it easy for them, but at least, boost your students' morale. Help them get
With
to the right
the
answer.
student that I use this topic is a low-level student, and what I did was I gave her point system. Like, oh, how many checks do you have today? Something like that.
Ah, okay.
So that she would be, oh, I need to collect more checks or something like that. Point
Okay,
system.
motivation. Yes.
Right.
You find your own way to motivate your student. Okay, anyway, this one now is your workbook. So if you can see, you try to create a clearer situation. Okay, for example, desert, right? For example, you go to the desert, even for just 2 days. What kinds of things will you bring to the desert? So you try to choose here, just 5 things. And you can ask why, so that they
After
get to
you
talk.
finish the sentence. Right.
Why would you bring a scarf?
Why?
A teacher
What are you
cover
going to
my
use that
face.
for? Or something like that.
So it's not just basically answering the exercises in the book, you try to stretch and create time or give them a chance to talk. Okay, so I would take blah, 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 blah to the desert, and then why questions? Okay,
I was actually
and
surprised
then,
because one of my students chose map. And I asked
why?
why. So that she will not get lost. She was
In the
trying to
desert.
choose between a map and a compass.
Ah,
And
okay,
that was
for
a low-level
directions.
student.
And if your students, sometimes the reasoning is kind of, the choice is kind of off tangent, but
Oh,
the reasoning, it's acceptable, it's okay. Let it be. Don't laugh at your student. Okay? Just accept.
don't be so
And
strict.
then, yes, because this book is informational, so it would make them feel like, I feel like I'm at school. And then I'm studying
Right.
a school book. So try to make it interesting in your own way.
And more fun.
Yes. So here, I think this is simple, just matching. And then if the student has a hard time remembering it, I I gave my student a choice actually. You want me to read it, or do you think you can remember the words here? Or you can put the first letter
As a clue.
so that you don't need to read. Okay?
And then help out your students. So once they've already chosen an answer, try to cross it out so that they would know which words will be left.
So that they won't get confused. Okay, so the last part is sentence construction here. You have this pattern. So you just try to explain a pattern a little bit, because explaining it too much would take too much of your student's speaking time. So simple way. So what blank it is. Sometimes what I do, what, number 2, number 3, number 4. Yeah, very easy. So what? Mm. Mm-hmm. Sorry, number 3, number 4 here. So she is. See? It would, give you less of a problem. So that's the same here. You try to do that. And then here you can stretch speaking. Here. Because,
You can ask more questions.
yes, you can ask follow-up questions. And the same thing. I think this is just the same thing.
With listening, sometimes there are students who actually have good retention that you don't even need to
To listen.
say the
So you don't
word, the
need to
missing
do
words.
this part anymore, I think, if you've done this part. Just if, for example, your student doesn't or is not that keen on, answering like that, you probably could skip this part and just talk more about the desert.
So you can either have a choice actually. If you still have a lot of time left
You can use
in
this
class, you can stretch the speaking
speaking part.
part, or you can stretch it a little and then give
And
them a
move on to
choice.
listening.
Do you want to still continue or read or do this? Or do you want me to ask more questions? Or do you want to tell me more things? If you will
And I
not
think
be
you can
able,
guess from the
yes,
student's response. If you think,
right.
I think this wants to talk more, so okay. Give them a chance
Let
to talk
them.
more.
Remember, speaking, speaking, speaking.
And it's their class, so let them talk.
Right.
Okay, so that's easy. Let's move on to basic, which is a little more difficult, a bit more a higher level compared to easy. So this is, sorry, I chose unit 25, but presentation is basically the same. So this,
The
and
reading
then you
part
have
is a little bit
vocabulary,
longer.
and the sentence, the pattern of the sentences in the reading part, the difficulty gets, the level gets higher and higher as the book
Right.
progresses. Okay, so you have word practice again, and then the same thing, true or false, comprehension questions. Since we are both speaking teachers, just let them answer. Let them type if they want, and then let them read it. Or they say
Sometimes
the answer and you type. Okay, and this is the
Right.
same.
It would be better if you say, I will type it for you. Just give me the
So
answer.
they just talk.
Because,
Yes.
right. Because if they will type, it will take a long time.
Sometimes, yes. Teacher, where is tea? Teacher,
Yes.
where is P?
Sometimes they will call their mom, Mommy!
Yes.
What is the
So
spelling of blah, 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 blah?
it's better if you type. and they just talked. And then, be careful, because when I use this, yay, I saw that.
Good
So
grammar.
there's something wrong there. So here, you just correct this, or I think I would just correct this and then send the corrected file to all the
Or-
other teachers. But
Or
what I
just in
did
case,
was, Mhm.
right? Just
Yes.
in case Teacher Casey wasn't able to correct it, or missed
Now you
something,
know.
missed
Just
something,
be careful.
don't forget to review or be prepared with your materials. Review your materials so that you would know, you will not be surprised
Which
like
part?
what she.
Like, yes, I was
Right.
using it and then, oh my gosh, wait, this should be voted. I was in the middle of class,
There.
and then I discovered. But a good thing that I did, actually, or my student did with this part is, since the story here is pictographs, right? So it's a picture that means a word. So it
Mhm.
could either be a graph or also a table or just a symbol. So here, what I did here was, since we're talking about pictures and you understand what the pictures mean, just look at the graph. Do you think by looking at the graph you can understand what this, or the table rather, what this table is for? And then I made but that student was able to make good sentences. So I made her explain to me. So she said, this is about favorite pets, and from the table, the most popular pet is cat because it got 10 votes, and then stuff like that. So we can make the students talk. Okay.
Yes, and actually
And then-
stretch it. Why did the cat have a lot of votes? Why do you think
I
the hamster?
actually
Blah, blah,
changed
blah.
the question a little bit. Let's say if this survey were done in Korea, okay, what are the top 3 favorite animals? But she explained to me that, according to her, what she knows, just dog, because she says many people think cats are unlucky, and hamsters, they regard hamsters as pests or rats, like that. Most people,
Okay.
she said, just her opinion. So just the dog, and she doesn't know other animals. And then here, vocab. You studied these words, but now they're used in like everyday sentences. Here. So
Not the
you use
sentences that you
that,
think you would see in the passage.
not in the passage, but rather something that you could use in everyday life. So it's either that, or you can ask your student to make their own sentence if you want.
Yep.
Okay, and then reading comprehension. If you want to stretch this part, you can actually ask the student to explain why, or what's the difference between this and this, if the student can do that, or very responsive.
Or give examples
Mhm.
based
So
on their
just try
experience.
to stretch
Just like this one.
wherever part, right? Wherever part you could stretch, try to
can.
stretch by letting the students talk and talk and talk. Okay, and
Yes,
then
if you would notice,
Here.
we've said the word stretch a number of
yes, many times.
times already.
Because we always have to reiterate that students should talk and talk and talk. And this is grammar part again. So you guide your students into changing this sentence to this sentence, and the use of for plus something or someone to plus action, like that. So to guide your students, you have you just try to, which to circle maybe or underline the words that they would use with for and to, like that. But I
Or
didn't reach this
if
part.
you actually have time,
Mm.
you can actually focus on this, like for one class. You can focus on this if you
maybe.
want to focus on grammar. Explain first when to use for and when to use to, and then when you're done with the 3 sentences, you can actually have your own examples or your own sentences or your own exercises.
Especially those that the student could relate to, like what I usually do, like look around you or think about what you did this morning or what you do every day or things that you have. So try to make it as effective as possible. And then this one. So it's like comprehension and opinion in one. What's a pictograph in math? And why do you think it's easier to use a picture instead of numbers? How about you, in your opinion? Which did you understand better and why? Like that. Something like that. And the same thing. So the layout of the books are basically the same. There are just some modifications as you go along, but if you know how the book looks like, I think it would be smoother, and you just adjust according to the book level and the student's level, I think.
Yeah.
And always remember, stretch the student's speaking time. Okay?
If you're actually
So
at
I
the
think
end
that's-
of this recording,
Mm.
try to remember how many times we said stretch.
Stretch the speaking time.
And speaking.
Yes. Okay, but I think that's all that we can share with you for this book. If you have your own ideas that you think would be very useful,
Useful.
and could make the presentation better, try. Try your own way. And then
And
you
if
want,
if
you can share
if it
with
works,
others.
share.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's all that I can say for, what's this, Reading Digest book.
If you have any questions, just don't forget to ask Teacher Casey.
Why me? And her. Teacher says. Okay. And all the other, and other teachers here as well. But anyway, I think you get an idea of how to use the book from this recording. That's all I can say. Let's
And-
call it tonight. Let's call it
Watch-
tonight.
Yeah, just watch the let's call it tonight.
Yes,
Just watch
let's
the
call it
videos
tonight.
of the classes that we have recorded.
I think you will also
So
get an
that
idea.
yes, that would help you a lot. Okay, let's go tonight.
Okay. Yes, let's call it tonight. No, that's a
Good
joke.
night.
Okay. But anyway, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.